Hey, my name is Michael with backtothefuturetrading.com, and we do something really weird. I've discovered after close to 20 years of playing at this game that most of the people that are telling you to do something are full of a special word that I don't think I'm allowed to say over the air. They're generally well-oiled marketing machines or well-intentioned people who don't know their buttocks from their elbow, and they'll tell you things like, just follow this signal. This is my one secret setup. All you need is to do this every day. You can trade trendline rejections. You can trade trendline breaks, ICT, ABC, LMNOP, and it goes on and on and on. And still, after the 15 years that I've been doing it, and the 15 years before that, 90% of people are losing 90% of their account in 90 days. People are resetting their accounts in funded accounts like Apex and Top Step Trader every minute of every day, all over the world. It's never been easier to lose as much money as you can as possible. Shannon is coming out of the gate hot, with a frothy question. How does your system filter out random selling or buying pressure from Trump's tweets? Shannon, I want to introduce myself. You're my favorite kind of customer. I have a question. First of all, hi. I'm going to skip past everything that I had planned to say, and I'm going to go right to your question. Is that fair? But you have to get in a back and forth with me so I can know if you're understanding the answers to the questions. So if I ask you something, can you type back to me? No, you are the cue right now. Okay? It's a valid question. Let's get out of this silly PowerPoint and take a look at something here. And I want to thank you for that question, because really at its base, what we're asking is this random or is this predetermined? Is that kind of what you're asking? Kind of feels like it. Okay. So Shannon, if I had to ask you a question and I said to you, what generally happens when we get near these green dots? Would you say in general the market goes up, the market goes sideways, the market goes down, or there's no real pattern to it? Look at the big ones first if it helps. It's definitely a pattern, right? Okay. So most of these signals, if you waited for that signal, you would be in a relatively low risk entry where it would go immediately in your direction, or at the very least finish break even. Is that a fair assessment? Okay. Now, stay with me one more second, because I wrestled with the same question, and I promise I'm not going to give you a bull blank answer, because when you know the answer, everything kind of opens up. Let me show you this one. This is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is probably the most random market we can look at, right? Same question. What generally happens at the red dots and what generally happens at the green dots in Bitcoin? You answer the question. It's actually a useful exercise if you do that. I promise you. It turns. Okay. So let's go back and this is a great, Shannon actually did us a good service today by framing the question from day one. I'm having a hard time believing or understanding how we can predict what is generally understood to be and projected and proclaimed to be from every available high point megaphone Yahoo with an Instagram account, that I need to sit there. Oh, it's a doji candle. Oh, look, it's three crows. Oh, evening star. Oh, right? That's what we're told on day one. You got to sit there. You got to watch every tick. You better have a TPO chart or a volume profile or a delta something or other, because you're going to miss it if you don't look. Now, there are two choices that we have when it comes to approaching the market in terms of a belief system. And what you believe will determine the arc of how you approach the market. So Shan, before I tell you where these signals are from, and it's going to blow your brain out, both of the sets, I'm going to ask you a question. Is it entirely possible, and or if not probable, when Elon Musk sends out a tweet that he knows, despite the fact that he swears there's no way he could have known, it's going to drive the price of his stock higher? Is there any possibility that people in his close circle of friends, associates, politically connected, financially connected, might have an inside track on that tweet going out? Burner phones, smoke signals. Okay. So when he says taking company private, funding secured at 420, Saudi wealth fund, blah, 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 and he squeezes all of the short sellers out, they lose billions of dollars in one tweet, wipes out all of the negative pressure. Devil be damned, we'll figure it out in the courts. Right. So when Trump launches Trump coin, followed right behind Melania, following right behind, and then announces that Trump Media is launching a cryptocurrency ETF trading site, I don't even know. And his net worth overnight goes from where he was to plus 25 billion in a minute. Does that strike you as random? No. So there's these two ways to approach it. One is a little conspiratorial, based on casual observation. In my state of North Carolina, Senator Richard Tillis, who was part of the committee that was advised by the security intelligence agencies that COVID was coming, and there were trucks full of frozen Italian bodies in Genoa and Sicily, and it was just a matter of weeks before that got here. He sold every stock he had, along with members of the same committee, at the top, and swore in committee after committee after committee after committee, I had no idea, had nothing to do with it. We kind of know. What do we kind of know? Let me go back and finish this. There's an inside track of info, and most of what seemingly happens randomly isn't. Okay, we'll call that determinism. Big word, but I promise we're getting at something really important. I want you to leave here today feeling like you learned something. Okay, number two, and this is important. Number two, markets are living, breathing, random cauldrons of undetermined movement where everyone has access to undisclosed news and jointly determines, I can barely write this with a straight face, the value of the instrument in real time. Which one of those do you believe, Shannon? A, on the left, or B? And it could be 51-49, or you can say you don't know. That's honest too. I want to get a sense of where everybody is here today. What do you think? Do you think Nancy Pelosi randomly picks the stocks AAA? Okay, so now if we sense that it might be this, that's why Earl wrote, that's why I waited to go all in on Hawk Tua Girl. So hear me out. All I do for 15, almost 16 years is study this. It's all I've done. Done some other things, mostly this. Whatever metaphysical circle you come from, if you're an astrophysicist who's humanistic, right? No religion whatsoever, observable universe, we're all here randomly via evolution, or if you come from one of the major lobes of religion, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, all of these things where there is meaning in life, right? There's this belief that there is an order and a rhythm to the universe created by a designer. Okay? Physicists believe when you had two particles at the very beginning of the universe, I promise there's a good answer to your question, I'm almost there, that if we had a computer powerful enough, when that particle hit this particle and that particle hit that particle, we could determine where this particle would be in the future. And if we had a computer big enough and this one banged into this one, banged into this one, which became a tadpole, which became a camel, which became a humpback whale, and now we're here today, that determinism says there was nothing random in that process if we understood from the very beginning what the forces acting on the system were. Determinism. Everything is happening exactly the way it was always going to happen. I was always going to say that. On the other side of that, not secularism, not humanism, there's a class of people who say there's a plan. There's a plan for my life. There's a plan for this world. There's a plan. Either one of those leaves no room for randomness in life. Now, this will hurt your head if you allow it, but stay with me. I want to show you proof that there are things that are happening that cause, before we ever get to that moment in time, a predetermined movement. Okay, so Shannon, you said that the market turns in Bitcoin when we arrive at these signals. You said it, I didn't say it. These signals come from an astronomical event. This is our Earth, and this is the moon. And the moon travels around the Earth in an elliptical pattern. Stay with me. No one from church is going to know you're listening to this right now. Hang on. This isn't about you being a Taurus or a Libra or an Aquarian or whatever. So in the course of its travels, Shannon, there are 2 points where the moon is as close to the Earth as it can be in the middle of the egg. And there are 2 points where the moon is as far away from the Earth as it can be. Are you with me? That short length is called focal 1 or focal length 1. And the long length is called focal length 2. They actually have more technical terms. If you go online and you search apogee, perigee, you'll see that there are moments where the moon is far away as it can be and as close as it can be. I think you got it. Okay. Now, in Bitcoin, everywhere you see a green dot, hang on, is a perigee. Everywhere you see a green dot on this chart is a perigee. And now you know something that very few people on earth know. You know something that the influencer who's in your YouTube feed yammering about his free course or his $7 ebook doesn't know because he's an idiot. Okay? Every one of those green dots is this. How do we feel about that? And every one of the red dots is an apogee. And I'm not sure if I'm spelling this right, but it's been a long day. I inhaled a lot of fiberglass insulation this afternoon, so I'm not going to lie. So without getting into the electromagnetic specifics of why it happens, I want you to imagine that as a financial juggernaut or a global leader, that if you knew this, Shannon, when would the most fortuitous time to make announcements be? When people are all jacked up because the moon is as close as it's going to be? When the moon is as far away as it can be? If you knew people were going to be on edge and risk averse, could you make the market crash if you said something of particular distress? Yeah, and if you knew that it was the time when people are going to act irrationally, roll the dice and let it all go on red, would that not be a time where you might let loose the dogs, let slip the dogs of financial hell and start a stampede? Now look, I know the dates in the future for the next 1,000 years. Don't believe me? Go online and let's ask ChatGPT, what are the apogee and perigee dates for 2025? Shannon, when can we expect tweets that cause Bitcoin to go higher? When can we expect tweets that cause Bitcoin to go lower? To the minute. If you had such power in your hands. Okay? Now, E-mini S&P. Every one of the green dots is either a first quarter lunar phase or a full moon. Now you know two things that I can't take away from you that are now public knowledge. True. Yeah. Feels weird a little, doesn't it? Feels like we're not going to get muffins on Sunday when the pastor's done talking because we're looking at astrology. But it's not astrology, it's astronomy. You know what the big red dots are? And I promise there's an answer to this. Whoops, sorry. Not a full moon. The opposite. And I love to talk about this. I know you guys are tired of hearing me talk about it, but it helps me make a point when people like Shannon come along who go, hey, is it random or predetermined? Is it random or predetermined? Right? And it's not a recent phenomenon either. If we load a bunch of data and we go back a little bit, look, Shannon, it's been happening for a while, hasn't it? So what do we make of this? We have to ease into it because our brains can't handle it. Every other vendor will tell you you need their secret recipe, their secret system, their secret blah, blah, blah. Because they know that you'll never believe what I'm telling you right now. It's much easier for people to believe that it's random and you need all the other things. You got a journal, you got to have a friend, you got to have a t-shirt that says, I love trading on it. You got to play music. There's 100 different people saying 100 different things. All I know is there seems to be something happening historically where somebody besides me knows when the population of planet Earth is going to be grumpy and when people are going to regain their senses and go up. Be grumpy, regain their senses, and go up. Now think about this. We've identified just two, there are more, just two mechanisms publicly. Yeah, you feel ridiculous, but before I told you what those signals were, Shannon, it felt pretty good, didn't it? You were like, oh, I have some knowledge. Pretend I didn't tell you any of it. I just showed you what Bitcoin does. Look at it. If I didn't tell you what it was, and I just told you, Shannon, there are predictions in the future based on artificial intelligence. Shannon, these signals are based on artificial intelligence, and we can tell you which day Bitcoin is likely to start going up or going down. It's more tangible, right? It's more believable. You're like, oh, it's our AI. Oh. But I literally just showed you, and it's not exclusive to one section of the market. Look at it. So what we're now leaning into is, okay, that's great on a daily chart, but what we're presumably agreeing on here is that there are two elements in this chart. If I never told you where they came from, there are signals that are known dates months into the future that when we arrive in the present, an expected move with A, a start date, B, a direction, and then C, an end date occur. Can we agree on that? Let's pretend it has nothing to do with the moon or the moon position, even though you know that it does. Can we agree that this statement is true? Okay. So what this seems to imply is that there are time-based signals. There's an element of timing involved. Whether or not you choose to believe in the mechanism of it, if it helps you to kind of just put it out of your mind, that's fine. But there's a method of knowing signals in the future. And no matter what is happening on the planet Earth, the population responds in unison, in kind, emphatically, greedily, or in fear, unison in fear. Okay, good, good. You're doing good. So that's one method of approaching the market. So if we look at the markets that way, right? We all kind of believe that this stuff is happening, that somehow people in power know these things are coming. Then what we've got here is kind of the surface, and there's this pocket of oil, but instead of oil, we're going to call it time, or we'll put parentheses, predictive times. And so what I just showed you was sort of digging straight down from one direction with astronomical signals. Okay. So time seems to be exuding its influence upwards from this well over to here where people are standing around buying and selling. That's a horrible giant head. Let's draw people better. Here's a head. It's an anatomically correct man. So there are signals coming from this well of force. So astronomical is one way. What's another way we can come at it? We can come at it through, we'll frac down. Here, we'll go this way, we'll go this way, and now Shannon will do some horizontal drilling this way into the same well, but we'll use a second technique called data mining. And what data mining does is it says, hey, now that we believe this thing together, now that we believe there's the possibility of someone up here knowing something about how I'm going to feel tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, and tick, 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 shoop, type something that causes a stampede, right? Then maybe they've been doing it over and over again lately at certain times. So what we can do, let's open an oil chart together. Oil is a fun one. And let's open an intraday chart. And what you start to do is you look at this chart, and now Shannon, you go, hey, there are some turns that happen here during the day today. That's great. When did they happen? And we start to move from the price action column over here, this axis, and now Shannon, we're paying all this attention on the bottom now. And so now today I'll come over here and we'll get a text and we'll say, well, when did this move occur? 9:05. Okay. When did the high come in? 10:35. When was that intermittent low? 10:05. When was this intermittent low? 12:20. When was this intermittent low? 14:20. When was this swing high? 13:30. You with me so far? Give me a quick Y if you're following, you're tracking. Okay, cool. So now we're going to go back and look at yesterday. And we'll just take the signals from today. And you see where it says 10:30 right here? That was a high today. Let's look at 14:20. There's 14:20. Okay, let's look at 1:30. We'll put a sell signal right here. Let's look at 12:20. Now let's go back and do 10:05. And before that, 9:05. So with those numbers now, I have a buy signal at 9:05, 10:05, a sell signal at 10:30, a buy signal at 12:20, a sell signal at 1:30, a buy signal at 2:20. You see what we're doing? I can go back another day and do the same thing and start to put together a pattern of when the markets are potentially going to move up or down. Or, Shannon, I can teach a computer program to do that for me. You with me? Okay. So now look, these were all the predicted times for oil today on a 5-minute chart. And I have the signals right now for tomorrow. I have all the patterns for Friday right now. And as we start to go back in time, a really eerie thing starts to emerge. About half of the time, the signals that were predicted, like the one at 3:40 London time, or the one at 8:40 London time, 3:40 US time, drops from 3:40 to 4:35. And then we have the high here at 10:40, we have the low here at 10 o'clock, and then the drop at 12:25. Okay, but I didn't give you the times for the 5-minute chart. I gave them to you for the 3-minute chart, right? Over here, let me get the signals for you. Over here on this page, I gave out all the times for Wednesday and Thursday for the ES, CL, gold, the DAX, euro currency, the YM 1 minute, the NQ 1 minute, euro, dollar, pound, dollar, Ethereum. So Jeff, you're asking about the big drop this afternoon. I took a screenshot of it. This one here. One of the charts that I gave out was the E-mini S&P 5-minute chart. Watch. And this sort of leaves this for me. I could close the webinar and drop my microphone after I show you what I'm about to show you. How do I do this? This is a chart that we published 2 days ago, 4 days ago. What does it say? I'll pull it up in a second. Ready? 2 p.m. up move, 2 p.m. up move. 12:45 up move, 12:45 up move. 12:10 down move, 12:10 down move, 11:45 up move, 11:45 up move. And Jeff, see where it says 3:35 right here? 3:35 Eastern right there. 1:30, 1:30. So, most popular time frame of the most popularly traded market that blows out most people's accounts. These are the afternoon's signals from how long ago? 6 days ago. So Shannon, this answers your question. And it leaves a sick feeling in your stomach if you're honest with yourself. This chart was published, these times were published 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days ago. What the heck is going on? Boy, it feels like that thing we were talking about, how you believe in what you believe about the markets is true. So Jeff, what was the other time today on the 5-minute chart? 9:55, 3:35. Now here's the thing that'll really boggle your mind. Jeff, what was everybody in the world doing when we broke through the high of day? What was everybody and their brother doing when we broke through the high of day today? What was Goldman Sachs and Deutsche Bank doing in that 20-minute span of time? This is commonly referred to as a stop run. And the whole time people were buying, I'm literally watching that signal. And in a sim account, I was working on my ham radio. I've had this annoying hum that I think came from my antenna. And I literally reach over and I hit sell right here, and it goes down about $1,500. No. Retail traders don't create traps. Retail traders don't have the money and the resources Deutsche Bank has. Retail traders don't get caught cheating. JP Morgan pays $1 billion for manipulating gold futures markets. Gets caught spoofing, manipulating the market. That's one fine. They've paid over $30 billion in fines, by the way. And that's what happens. Okay, but also look, what other times of day, Shannon, were we expecting a move and it goes immediately in the direction of the expectation? At 6:05, at 7 a.m., at 7:55, at 9 o'clock, at 9:35. Here it got a little wonky, but I'm going to show you something that we did there. It goes 63 to 56. It actually moves 7 ES points. I want to just make that clear. 7 points down before it reverses. It goes straight up at 11:45. Shannon, it goes straight down at 12:10. It goes straight up at 12:45. It goes straight up at 2 o'clock. The one that it doesn't really, I can't really go, it was perfect, was 1:30. And maybe 10:05, which for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes stays in a range. You guys with me? So here's something that I used to do years ago. Shannon and Jeff, I'll put the YM up in a second. I'm not avoiding you. I'm just kind of constructing an argument here. 0%, 50%, 100%, 25, 75. Can I say that the signals we've been waiting 6 days for, on average, are 60 to 70% accurate, in the sense of when we were waiting for them, the thing that was happening actually happened? Can I say that, Shannon? Okay, if you admit to that, there's a problem. If you agree with me in that, first of all, congratulations. It's a hard thing to admit. But if you believe it with me, we're returning back to this idea of what seems to be the way markets move. What drives them? Are they just random Forrest Gump feathers blowing around while we sit on a stump and wait for our kid to get home from school? Is that what a market is? Or is it a geopolitical, oligarchic playground of manipulation where somebody knows something about ourselves that we don't even know, and just twists it and turns it and squeezes every last penny out of our hopeful selves until we crawl back into our cubicles. That's what I get for dreaming. Because if you believe that it's this, then there are all sorts of ways. I've only shown you two. I know there are at least two more ways to tap into this. One is based on something called the law of vibration. Gann stumbles across this 10 years into his career. I get there about 11 years. I'm a year behind him. And I figure out how the law of vibration works. That every market has a resonant frequency. Oh. But for now, data mining seems to offer us some pretty awesome insights into how markets move. And all this program is doing is it's going back in time and it's saying, hey, I would like to go back and study the times that the markets have moved. Here's gold futures on a 5-minute chart today, right? Where's the open? 935. US Open, 935. There's two signals that I teach Jeff to trade this way, and then we're going right to the YM, I promise you. One of the reasons when people say, if you're so good, if it's so good, why do you sell it? There's this wonderful wonderful perk of being in business with a good tool that works. So you have a good tool that works, and in return, your best customers will tell you, what will they tell you? How they use it. The best traders that I've ever met on earth, making anywhere from $500,000 to several $1 million a year, will all tell me that they trade with a trending system. They trade in the direction of a trend. And then, Jeff, generally it's 50 to 55% with a profit factor somewhere between 1.5 to 2.0. Beautiful equity curves, go up, go up, go up. They win 50 to 55% of the time. They make $1. They lose 50 cents 45 to 50% of the time. So how do we trade it? Number one, when we arrive at the signal time here, 10:05, we're going long, 2836.5. We're going to get out for the purpose of this experiment at the next signal time. My stop is going to be 1.5, the average true range away from this candle. So if a 5-minute candle is 50 ticks, the stop is 75 ticks away. If it's 100 ticks, the stop is 150 ticks away. And so I know that there's a window until 12:25 that I can hold it to, where what's supposed to happen? Selling is supposed to happen next. Okay, same thing over here. I'm a buyer at 1:45 and I'm a seller at 2:30. I give back 12 ticks. There are two other signals here that I refer to called punctures. If I break the counter trend stop, I trade it like a breakout because it means there's no sellers where there should be in the uptrend. When the candle punctures that stop, I go long and I hold it till the next signal. When the candle punctures that blue stop line, I go long and I hold it till the next signal in these webinars. I hold it, it goes up and then comes down below the candle that broke through the line and I'm stopped out. It comes back up through the line a second time, I buy it again. So when the candles puncture that line, I put a stop underneath the puncture candle. When it goes through that line, my stop is underneath. When it goes through that line, my stop is underneath and then underneath. That's a trend trading system. 270 plus 280, let's call it let's call it 6, 8, 10, 9, 8, $800, if I'm calculating that correctly. So in gold today, you had $800 theoretically, hypothetically, of course, right? It's not a real account, but I can trade it in the direction of the trend. And that's what we told you to watch for when we were watching it. Jeff, here's the 5-minute YM chart, and people ask, what's the best time frame to trade it? The answer to that is yes. Whatever time frame you're comfortable trading. So we're going to go down to the 3, because the 3 is the one that I gave you, right? I'm constrained by the signal that I gave you. Remember that. So for me to prove this is real, to you, if I'm going to predict the future. Good morning, Alan. G'day, mate. Alan, you know what I learned about Australia? I learned something. I learned that there's a guy who raises cattle in the outback in these remote paddocks, and that there are 4 million invasive camels in the outback of Australia. And there's a YouTube video where the most fit P90X man I've ever met in my life runs through the Australian desert with a modified assault rifle, shooting as many as 80 camels at one time to protect the water tanks, solar panels, and gates for his cattle. And that's a job my guidance counselor never told me about. True story. Don't even get me started on the donkeys and the horses. 4 million camels. And the government's like, whenever you see a camel, you can just stab it. Anyway, Jeff, if I haven't lost you, poor Jeff's like the vice president of PETA and just logged out. All the times here were published 6 days ago to the interwebs. And so the way that I break through, I try to break through the noise. And I want to show you a system that's based on something real. Because everything else we've ever tried stops working. And you skip to the next thing, and you skip to the next thing, and you skip to the next thing. Some people refer to it as the next layer of the onion. If I can just get to the next layer of the onion, I'm going to put it all together. And so you wake up and it's Friday afternoon and you go, I'm not any better at this than I was at the beginning of the week. Because it's just this illusion, this marketing funnel that people perpetrate on us. This is based on a primal, time-based force that has deep roots in determinism, in natural law, however you want to define it. This is the exact same method William Delbert Gann, WD to his friends, was using in 1909. So it's got over 125, 130 years of consistency. It hasn't stopped working, but it requires this little, might as well be a 100-mile chasm, but it's this little tiny moment in the webinar where I say to Jeff, these are the times for the YM that I gave you, and here's what happened at those times. And Jeff's eyes now are dialed in, and I don't even have to ask him because I know he's looking at 703, He's looking at 754. He's looking at 903. He's looking at 942 and 1109. He's looking at the reversal at 1118, 1239, and the bottom at 930 and 1027. And he's looking at this ginormous 3-minute signal here and the reversal almost to the tick at 3:45 back up to 4 o'clock. And we're off one candle, Jeff, on the high at 1154. And in spite of all of the overwhelming evidence of what I just showed him from data that was 6 days old, despite all the evidence that Shannon has seen, website statistics and our customer software reflects that only 1 in 4 traders who come to this webinar will allow themselves to believe it and to move forward. Which means after this Herculean lesson, everything I've shown you about the basis of predictive movements with the sun and the moon, whatever, on the most random markets on earth, like Bitcoin, after all of that, there's only a 1 in 4 chance that those of you who don't have the software will allow yourself to move past that one element of doubt that we've proved beyond a shadow and take advantage of it. 75% of people would rather believe in tooth fairies and unicorns and the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. They're scrolling through to find the next influencer that they can work with. And if you go on YouTube and you try to look for somebody, it's just more of the same stuff. Learn futures trading, and out come the monsters. You got to have a great thumbnail. You got to be well lit. You got to have a chart behind you. You got to have that look of surprise on your face. Oh, what are futures? Oh, you got to have, this lady literally breastfeeds her baby while she trades. This girl is 13 years old. I can make millions just outside my trailer. Buy my course. I've checked all these people out. They're brilliant marketers. I make ChatGPT draw my thumbnails. Fun fact. And we're left with this. We're left with it. Was there anything random about the 509, the 539, the 603, or the 621 movement? Nothing. None of it. You can even see, Jeff, where they were taking profit along the way. This was yesterday's Dow. Same thing. And Jeff says, wait, I trade the 1 minute. Well, now you know that this is real. I'm going to put it on the 1 minute chart. And Jeff, here's where your signal came in. There's your chart this afternoon. Yeah, no, I was getting there. I just wanted to be dramatic. There's your signal. There it is. And there's where the program told you to stop. So we have a signal that I teach in my live room. It's called the aggressive counter trend trade. And what I would teach my students, and if you're in my room, just tell me if this is real, what I'm telling him right now. I recorded it. I can show it to him if he wants to see it. Jeff, at 3:35, the high of the candle is here. The high of the candle to the left of it is there. And I teach my students to go short right here. This is called an ACT, aggressive counter trend, because about 20 to 30% of the time, this is a high or low. So if you traded the ACT, or the aggressive counter trend time, and you said, you know what, I'm going to risk 5 ticks. program had you getting out 294 ticks later. There's another signal that I teach in the live room. It's called a CDOS. And CDOS is an acronym, stands for close in the direction of the signal. CDOS. So Jeff, right here, the very next candle, 340, that's a close in the direction of the signal. Does that make sense? So now your stop goes above the CDOS, or the close in the direction of the signal. If you're down here, number one, you take the aggressive counter trend trade, you put your stop just under that candle to the left, you lose 11 ticks. You wait for the close in the direction of the trade, that's this candle right here. Your stop goes underneath, you enter, or maybe you trade a pullback, I don't know. Worst case, you're in here and you're out at the close. Let's go to 4 o'clock right here. So 294 down, 169 up, minus 11. And I already know the times for tomorrow. Here's what I can tell you. Here's my mystery, right? I showed you a little bit of what's behind the kimono. I already have the times for Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Those times are immutable. They do not change. They won't update. They don't disappear and reappear. They are fixed. They're fixed. Right? The same way the apogee-perigee dates are fixed in the future. I can't go back and erase that there was a full moon. Didn't really happen on Friday. It was on Tuesday. Like every other vendor does. Their signals disappear when they're wrong. It's like, how do you people sleep at night? Very soundly. These crooks sleep very, very soundly. Okay. And it's not exclusive. It's not exclusive to one instrument class or the other. We can load this up on stocks if you're a stocks and options trader. We can look at Microsoft, for example, and do the same thing on a daily chart, right? We can see the upcoming dates for Microsoft. We can see the upcoming dates for Tesla, right? There's Tesla. When's the next sell date for Tesla? February 20th. When's the next buy date? February 20th. When's the next sell date? March 4th. Now the times aren't the same, Steve, on each chart time frame because time is fractal. So the way to think of that, great question, by the way. Other people were thinking it and you asked it, so I appreciate that. The way to think of that, Steve, is like this. When we send the program back into the past, remember when I had the chart with the swing strength on it and it was drawing those signals and it had like the line like this and the line like that? Let's say that was on a 60-minute chart. If I ran that same study on a 5-minute chart, you know what it's going to come back with? Little bumps inside the big bumps, right? So every time frame has smaller swings inside of it. So that means the 60-minute times are not going to equal the 5-minute times because the moves are fractal. Or a better way to say that, small moves smaller moves inside of larger moves. Does that make sense? So if we come here and we go back to the ES 60-minute chart, all right, here's a good example. Again, great question. Here's my 60-minute E-mini S&P chart. Over here now, let's do the ES 5-minute chart. And it's not just futures, guys. It works on everything that you have data feed access to. So Steve, if I'm looking at the 60-minute signal from 11 o'clock forward, what should I be looking for? On the 5-minute lower time frame. If the signal 11 o'clock was a white dot, what should I be looking to do on the 5-minute chart if I use higher time frames? Buy at 11:45, buy at 12:45, buy at 2 o'clock. Yeah, but they're not the same times, right? They're much larger moves that encompass entire days on the 60-minute chart. And so now I'm long and I'm out +8. I'm long and I'm out +16. I'm long and I'm out +13. Can you go the other direction with it? Can you have a 5 and then a 1? Yeah. Sure. Yeah, there's generally, he asked, can you use the higher time frame for Confluence? Yeah, about 20% over the last 10 years, about 20% of people are using higher time frame HTC, higher time frame Confluence. I'll put 20% there. I call those people weirdos because I'm jealous. Will opposite signals ever appear at the same time on different time frame charts? Sure. Waves can build each other up and they can cancel each other. So Steve, you can have a wave like this, and then your 5-minute chart gets here at the same time, right? You can have a point where the waves build each other up and the 15 and the 5 are on the exact same time and are pointing up. And then Steve, you can have moments where you have a positive and a negative together that cancel each other out, right? That's a set of Bose headphones with noise canceling technology. That's how that works. Or the buildings in Japan that rock in the opposite direction of the earthquake with the hydraulic cylinder to keep the building flush. Yeah. What I generally do is I ignore the higher time frames. I'm ignoring the higher time frames. And so I'm just looking at this and trading. Now, there's one other way to use the higher time frame with warp. Would you like to see how that helps? I can show you. There's something really cool that comes from timing signals that some of you, I think, are going to really like. The guy who first figures this out, William Delbert Gann, pardon me for pushing through here. He watches the signals for a while and he says, Steve, when you study the time cycles, you're going to learn why tops and bottoms are found at certain times. And if we go back and look at people who watched him trade, they say well over 50% of his timing signals are the exact high and the exact low. Very similar to what we saw on the YM 1 minute chart, the 3 minute chart, and so on. That's why I was particularly interested in the second half of his observations, because not only does the time signal drive the market down, but it creates a resistance level where later on bottoms and tops form as well. Jeff, you want to see something cool? Shannon, can I go back and use your moon stuff without you passing out? Are you going to be okay? Is that all right? Okay. So here, I want to show you. Steve, what market do you trade? I'll use the moon stuff on your market. And then we can bring it back down to warp, because warp does the same thing. SPY. Okay, perfect. And we'll go out to the daily. There'll be food around the corner for me. So Jeff, here's the daily signals for SPY. And again, you see how we have the stuff in the future? No one else has that. You can have it. You can have it. Here are the signals for SPY months into the future, into the spring and into the summer. Same signals as a 5-minute chart, right? If you're going to do calls or puts, long from September 9th until September 24th, $26. Long from October 4th until October 29th, $9. Puncture, $5. Signal with trend, $11, negative minus $7. Aggressive counter trend comes all the way back to the moving average, $20, and now right here in the signal with trend, you're up 6. Okay, now check it out. Let's add the moon signals back to this thing, but I don't care about the times. I'm going to use the prices. Let's see if what Gann said was correct. Daily cycle marker template, there it is. Okay, so now Jeff, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to, and if this gets too weird, please tell me. I can dial it back, but I'd rather tell you too much than not answer your questions. What I'm doing is I'm drawing a support level at the closing price of each lunar day. Never ending. So if it's a full moon day, Jeff, I have a horizontal line extending forward into the future, like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's get rid of our drawings, because how many of you are familiar with the concept of a crosshair on a rifle? Crosshair. All right. When we aim, all I've been giving you so far is this part. I'm going to give you this part now so that we can really hone in on the entry and the exit. You can use the two things together. So there are 2 rules that I'm going to employ here that we can use for any chart. Rule number 1, I can split any gap in time-based support and resistance into thirds. I can split any gap in time for the SR levels into thirds. And then rule number 2, this is a 10-year-old rule that I developed. Number 2, when at the very top or bottom, we can continue the last known gap up or down, repeating. So what that means, Jeff, is on this daily chart, for example, the last gap is here. And so I can take the last known gap until I have a new signal, and I can split it like that. Did you see what I just did? So whatever the last known thing was, like a piano, if we were going to add 10 more keys to a piano, we measure how big the last key was, we get another one from the box, and we put it up here. And then we get another one from the box, and we put it up here. And can you see where SPY stopped to the tick? Kind of neat, right? Okay. Now, how does that help me? What does that have to do with the price of rice in China, you say? What time frame do you trade SPY intraday? What's your trigger time frame? 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute? 5. Perfect. I feel like we're right on the same page together, you and I. Woo! All right, don't let me down, chart. Let's get rid of these horizontal and vertical lines in the background. NinjaTrader gives us. We don't need them. We can use them, but not today. Okay. So follow me down. Ready? I'm going to go taking moon lines where a dead guy says we should see bottoms and tops holding around the support levels of the time-based signals, which is this. I'm going to drop down to a 60. And Jeff, let me just make sure I include all the market data, including early trading hours here. Where it says use instrument settings, I'm going to go ETF, early trading hours. So we got it all. Perfect. Okay, so there's the 60. Let's load more data. Now, Jeff, can you see that this line originates way over here somewhere? And we come back to it. Can we say that a bottom held here? I promise we're going to get to your time frame. I just want to train your eye 1 second before we go there. Okay. Now we're going to go down to the 5. Swing. Swing. Let's make sure I have all the signals. Data series 90. Okay, let me just check here. I'll go back to the daily. And I want to make sure we have those top lines. 608. Go back to the 5. 608. Okay. You see that network of signals now? Watch. I'm going to come here and I'm going to do like we did before. See that gap? I'm going to split it into thirds. See this gap? I'm going to split it into thirds. I'm going to come down here to this mamma jamma and I'm going to go back and split it into thirds. And I can literally use these lines to dissect and look for where the levels are where tops and bottoms form. So here and here, most recently today. Let's come in and zoom in. Are you getting what I'm laying out here? We can come here, split these one more time where there's gaps, and then right here. So the lines on this chart, Jeff, are based on the support and resistance levels from the moon. But now what can I do? I can come in here and tell it, hey, I have the support levels, but I would really like the time signals. Let's get rid of these and make it a little easier to see. Show signal dots only, 714.8, yes. So now, Jeff, I have a crosshair. What do you think of that? Huh? Huh? People should be carrying me around on your shoulders. Go. When I'm long at 2 o'clock, I'm trading a pullback to that line. My stop is under here. Where's my target? At least here, and I'm going to try for 2 lines by 335. You see how I'm doing that? Now I have trades that are literally sitting on a support level, that are literally sitting at a resistance level. So Jeff, when the 10:05 signal forms, I'm below support. I'm at resistance. What am I going to wait for? I'm going to wait for it to come down and touch that level. When I'm at 9 o'clock, it closes below resistance. I touch it, and now it comes down. At 9:55, it closes underneath support, which now becomes resistance. I trade a pullback to it. There's target 1. There's target 2. Make sense? Now, I don't have to use moon signals to do this. I wanted you to see that I can use something ridiculous that's based in that same oil well of time. So one of the things that's really easy to do, let's get rid of what we had. Yes, Bala, you are a smart cracker. That's what I was going to show him. You should do the webinars. I mean that. You're killing it with that question. Jeff, one of the customers just figured out what I was going to show you next. So what I can do is I can introduce those levels from the main software now back in. So this is called the open price line, and I can tell it, hey, I want to see the open price line for every signal. So Jeff, now I can bring those 5-minute signals locally into the formula. What I choose to do, what I did this morning in my training room, is I extend all of my local lines forward into the future. So I bring all my 5-minute lines on the chart. Method number 1, ready? Come down. And this is really pretty easy once you do it. I tell it, hey, I don't want just one signal. Extend every SPY 5-minute predictive time signal 10 signals forward into the future. Okay. So it's harder to see with the blue and the white. We give you the ability to change the signals. So let's give this a neutral color. What do you think? Goldenrod. We'll do goldenrod for the buy and the sell. So now, Jeff, what that does for me is I can see clusters like that. And when this one forms, I see that cluster. I see these 3 clusters here. I see those 2 clusters there. And then I saw these lines here. You see how I'm doing that? Just one rectangle. So that's method number 1. We have 2 things now, or what some people call a BOGO. Buy one, get one free. We get the times where 60 to 70% of the time, the move goes up or down. And I don't have to prove it because I already did. Then you get the second thing. The SR levels hold tops and bottoms at least 50% of the time. according to the people who watch the dead guy. So this is method number 1. You want to see method number 2? 5-minute lines give you 5-minute bounces, right? So let's come in here and turn those open price lines off. Now I can come back and add the indicator a second time. And once you do this, you save your template and you're done. And now, right here, I'm looking at SPY. Now I say, hey, I want to use a secondary data series. I want to use SPY, only I want to look at 15-minute signals. Right? Let's do 3 to 1, 4 to 1. You can do 20, 15. I'm going to use the same settings, 15-minute signals. I'm going to turn off the dot line here because I don't need it. I'm going to turn off the timestamps because I don't need those. I am going to turn the open price line on. I'm going to extend, I don't know, 20. Let's start with 20. And I'm not going to use the signal colors. This time we'll use goldenrod again. And I'll make the lines thicker. Do 5. Yeah, I screwed up. Thank you. So now, Jeff, it's reaching back on the 60-minute or the 15-minute time frame, and it's grabbing all the 15-minute time signals and bringing me those support and resistance levels. Can you see that? So you might look at that and say, dude, that's too many freaking lines. You know what you do? You can say beautiful, or you can say, hey, I don't want to use the 15. Those lines are too thick. Or you can reduce the number of lines. Open price line. Oh, down here, second one. I only want to see 10, the last 10 of the 10-minute signals. And now you've got that. You can also come in and say, maybe the 15 is too much. I want to do the hourly or the 30-minute. 30-minute lines give 30-minute bounces. And now you're like, whoa, there's hardly any lines here. Well, if you're ever stuck in that case, what do you know you can do? I can do that. And then I can do this. Because I have those two rules to work with, right? So you're always going to get support and resistance levels in addition to the time-based signals. And I think that's pretty cool. So you can use either of those rules because they're just like drawing fibs on a chart. You can draw a 50% fib on any time frame. So maybe the 30, well, I don't know, drop it down to the 20, get a few more signals. You get the point. Any questions about that? At the end of the day, the thing you don't have that you need is you could have known it was going to go up at 2 o'clock, and you could have known it was going down at 3:35 maybe. You could have known that it was going up at 12:45, down at 12:10, up at 11:45. It might have made an attempt down at 11:10 and 9:55. Those are things you could have known about in advance, and we already have the times for tomorrow ready to go. Bazinga. So, any questions about any of those things before we start to wrap up? because I don't like to take too much time out of your beautiful afternoon. There is a variant of this that I want to tell you about. It doesn't quite do as much as Warp does. TradingView is very limited in terms of what we're allowed to show or how many program lines we're allowed to code. But I just wanted to show you this. This is a plugin for TradingView called Chronos. This is a plugin for TradingView called Chronos. And Jeff, I can't do all those things. I can do the local support and resistance lines, but I can't do multi-time frame overlays. I guess I could. I guess you could. I haven't done it yet. You could add the indicator twice. I haven't done it yet, so I'm speaking out of turn. But like if you wanted to check out like the Trump coin, and this goes back to to what Shannon asked earlier. Shannon, look at when Trump coin was supposed to sell off and when it was supposed to go up. And you start to see here that even something that was recently created, is pretty manipulated. And it's all a fugazi, right? You can look at the signals here and see there are the upcoming buying and selling times right here on the 1 hour chart. And you could have known when to short the Trump coin. It is still below the moving average. NinjaTrader is incredibly stable. It handles our program like a champ. We create the program such that, Shannon, it does all the calculations when it first loads. So it's not constantly crunching numbers. It's running the numbers when the indicator first comes on. Does that make sense? So right now I have 2 workspaces open and I don't even know how many charts. And I'm running GoToWebinar, which takes up about 40% of my CPU. So yeah, you're not going to have a problem. I run Warp on a Chromebook from like 2005. Yeah, Jeff, I can pull that up here real quick. Stand by. It's just going to take me 1 second. While we're doing that, I just want to review with everybody. No, it's my pleasure. I'm here to serve you guys, not vice versa. The way we prove this works, it's a little dramatic. I know I'm a little over the top, but I got to break through a lot of scar tissue. Many of you have been burned multiple times by other vendors who've been here before us that sold you a bunch of hawk tua. And so there you go, Jeff, before I forget. The only feature you have in Chronos, you can adjust the amplitude. So if you want to see more swings with bigger moves, fewer swings with bigger moves, you can change the amplitude up, Jeff. And now it's going to recalculate with a swing strength of 11 instead of 5. And you see how it's a little cleaner now. So when you get the version for TradingView, you can see it's very limited here. And I can change the amplitude from 5 to 11 and get more signals and still have that study. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to mention about Chronos, fun fact, when we went to program it, our intentions were to bring over all of the features of Warp. And what we found out was that it's a good program, it's a nice platform, but when you start, they basically tell you, they say, Jeff, you have 5,000 characters of code maximum, or whatever that number is, I'm not sure. My programmer told us we are within 2 characters, like the letter A and the number 1, of the max. Whatever the max was, we programmed up until 2 characters, and then we had to stop. Where the Ninja Trader version, we have 12,000 lines of database code management. Yes, you get it. I just want to meter your expectations, and a lot of the people are getting both. They're starting out with Chronos and then moving into Warp as a backup. How did you hear about Chronos, by the way? It's not something I've been advertising. If you wouldn't mind, I'm curious how you guys even knew. It's good, I'm glad, but we're just getting ready to really market it. Every Tuesday, we give out the times in advance. I show you weird stuff about the moon. I try to break through the noise and prove to you that Thomas, I'm not sure. I think we only let me just type it here. Because it's different. Yeah, we haven't with anybody else. I give out the times before the webinar for the 2 days we're going to review. In this case, we had them 6 days before Thursday. And then we come back together to see, did it work or did it not work? Oh, cool. Thank you, Jeff. That makes sense. What I'm proposing isn't a holy grail. It's not the most amazing thing in the world. It is not the Pamela Anderson back in the day. I'm dating myself of indicators, but it's different. And it's hard to understand at first. Why isn't everybody paying attention to it? And when they interviewed the guy who first figured it out, people asked the editor of the magazine, Richard Wyckoff at the time, like, why aren't more people following this? And he said the following: we submit this, pretend it's a webinar or this report back in 1909, in full recognition of the fact that in Wall Street, a trader with a new idea, an idea which violates the traditions of the market and encourages a scientific view of the market, is not usually welcomed by the majority of traders. For the reason that the man introducing this scientific idea forces people to think and do research. Most traders hate thinking and doing research. That's why only 1 out of 4 of you tonight will move forward as a purchaser. Because you can't stand the idea that your head hurts a little bit. I want a green arrow that tells me when Bernie Madoff and Jeffrey Epstein are going to buy the market and push it up. I want a red arrow that tells me when to get out, and I want a sandwich, and I want my favorite TV program on 24/7. I meet those people every day. They're convinced there's a signal that works 100% of the time. They never lose a trade, and it's easy. Doesn't exist. Yeah. You can't have the levels Shannon, until you get to the signals have to populate where they do, and they build that network out in real time. Those lines are appearing in real time, so we couldn't give them to you. So here's where we go. There are two options right now. There used to only be one. If you want the warp variant, it's our flagship product, has been for a number of years. I'm going to put that link in your chat box. No high pressure sales. I just want you to know what's available. At the bottom of that page is a link. If you click buy now, there's a pop-up that says, hey, Michael teaches a class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9 to 11. And that was the video I was referencing earlier, where I was showing the signals that were on the chart, right? So
I think that worked out well yesterday.
This is from my class this morning, and I teach the things that we go over here. I show the methods in broad detail. We sit here and trade the open together. We come up with some signals. I teach you how to do what we're doing here in real time in a live market. If that's something you're interested in, it starts at 9 o'clock, it ends at 11 o'clock, and all the classes are archived. So if you can't make it one day or 2 days or whatever, you can go back and watch the class and follow along and market replay. It's $199 a month, and you can add that to your cart. If you're getting the warp version, there's a purchase agreement. You're going to tell us you agree with that before you come on board, and there's a promo code. So lifetime license option for warp. Promo code is WARPOFF. WARPOFF. That takes $500 off the price of the program. This is for life. You're going to get 2 computer licenses, lifetime updates included. We debug the code all the time. Ninja makes an update, so it's totally stable all the time. You're also going to get access to the Skype community, where we have, I think, over 300 people. 344 people are in our Skype group, and they're sharing their charts with each other. They're sharing their settings with each other. Those people are trading any one of a number of different groups. It's kind of like an old person Discord. I like it. It's easy to go back and refer to. And so the customers who are making money are reaching down and helping the new customers figure out and understand stuff. They write charts with their notes on there, and they're showing you where they got in and why. So that's included as well. There's free white glove installation as well to make sure the program installs okay to get you up and running, as well as a video archive on the Customer Resource Center. So about, I would say, close to 50 training videos on how to use the program, how to trade with it, ways to use it. So that's one method. That's the link that's in there. If you want the Trading View variant with the full knowledge of the limitations that it has, but the base feature of predicting the times and drawing open price lines, that's $195 a month. And yeah, based on what I showed you there, you can have that. It'll work on all your different markets and do the same thing. You can adjust your ATR stop. You can adjust your swing strength to have more or fewer signals. You can go on different time frames, analyze whatever market you have access to. So 2 different ways, real easy to onboard with Kronos, and Warp, really no risk. I don't think there's much risk here, because everyone who's come back and written a review, we have 94% 5-star review, 4% 4-star, and 2 people who said, you suck. So if you want to go back and review those experiences, everyone here is an actual customer that sat in a webinar just like you and left, went down the road, used the tool, came back and wanted you to know what their experience was. So that's available for you as well. I want to thank you for your time here today. Was today a good webinar? Not from, I don't need accolades and praise, but was today a good webinar? Did you learn a few things? Okay, I try to bring a different flavor to it every week. I care. I really do care, and I know there's a bunch of junk. I spend a lot of money on the junk. I'm an engineer by my background. I'm a nerd. There's a 3D printer. There's a 3D printer. There are 2 ham radios over here. I've lost track of all the stuff that I have. I'm a big nerd, but I love to build things. I was put on here with chromosomes that knew how to build things that made other people's lives easier. My dad did it. His dad did it. My kids are doing it. It's part of our nature in our family. My business partner, same thing. Been building things for people his whole life. Makes your life easier. I'm fulfilled. But I also know on the other side of the fence how crappy it was getting burned by vendor after vendor after vendor after vendor selling hopes and dreams and smoke. And I wanted you to feel like if you did move forward with us today, it's more than smoke. There is a deep, primordial, ancient well of time-based influence. We can look to the stars, we can look to the CPU, but it's all drawing from that same elemental force that's been working over a century, from 1909 to 2029 and beyond. It's the real thing. Other customers wrote their reviews. They wanted you to know it's safe to get on the ship. Easy entry point with Kronos. Lifetime license with Warp. We've been here 15 going on 16 years. We're not going anywhere till everyone on Earth knows how this rigged game is played. The promo code Steve is WARPOFF. I typed it in there. Whiskey Alpha Radio Papa Oscar Foxtrot Foxtrot. Whiskey Alpha Radio Papa Oscar Foxtrot Foxtrot. Thank you for the order. I appreciate you guys. I can't wait to be a part of your team. We are available on the Skype groups. I'm available. My cell phone is always on. My partner's cell phone is out there. There are 2 or 3 other guys who are helping me that are pro traders that are helping customers too. We're ready to basically equip you and get you back on the track. And here's what I want you to remember. Jeff, there are no plans like that in place right now. We kind of go out of our way to prove that this works so you won't feel, what's the word? I've taken, I'm standing here naked, man. I'm standing here naked, looking at the engagement ring. Put it on my finger, bro. I got nothing left to give you. I can tell you this. Tell me if that makes sense. Before I finish up. So basically, that I can do. But that requires some trust on your part. So if you do that, just email me and let me know and I'll follow through. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine upon your beautiful, handsome faces. May the mountains lay low before you and the valleys rise up to meet you. It's going to be a tough year. It's a tough year already, but tough years are volatile, and volatility brings profits if you know when to get in and you know when to get out. It's not perfect, but you can see here today, 6 days in advance, watching 6 days later what actually happened. For 15 years, we've been really close on their heels. And that's all we need. We need an edge. Trade less, smaller stops, let your winners run because you know how long to let the dog go. What better thing is there? Your shoulders are getting rubbed while you do it. Right, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? Oh, can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. I'm going to get out of here. Have a great night, everybody. Just blanked out for a bit. Sorry about that. I wish you well. I wish you peace. I wish you prosperity. I wish you all the things you wish for yourself. I'm in agreement with you. I wish good things for you. I want you to have the things that you have. I want to be a part of your story, and I really want your testimonial. I'm addicted to them. After 15 years and a near perfect Trustpilot rating, I can't wait for Shannon's review and Jeff's review and Mark's review and Steve's review. Woo! I can see it. I'm manifesting it now like a guy in the front row of a Joel Osteen episode. I'm naming and claiming Shannon's review and Jeff's review and Steve's review. All right, I love you guys. Thanks. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, Michael at Back to the Future Trading, area code 336-703-7667. I'll put it in there, 336-703-7667. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. My email, Michael at backtothefuturetrading.com. That's in there now as well. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.